Let's see what we can do. Let's see what we can do. Chris Courtney here, New Pragmatic. This is the pre-show. The show before the show. Because we cut this part of the show out. This is always, this is the live stream stuff. So if you're watching this, you must be watching the recording of the live stream. It's a rainy day here. Hope things are going well where you are. It's just the right time of the year to want to be outside, and then you're mad because you can't be outside. Things are going well here, though. Got a lot of work in this morning. I see Katie back in here, Luigi, Eve, Rebecca, everybody moving in a dozen different directions now. Had a good call with Lisa. So happy to know that you are, everybody's, it's funny because the economy's reopening but not reopening, and everything's kind of bouncing around, but I'm still seeing a lot of positive movement out there. Luigi's job tracker, great example of that. Also, wrapping up work on a video specifically about job tracking. Hopefully I'll have that out today. I did a lot of work on that yesterday, but I did not release it. So hopefully that'll be out a little later today for everybody here. Otherwise, what's going on? World's burning down, remember to wear your masks. Wash your hands. Stay 6 feet apart. That pandemic thing didn't go away. We just got distracted off of it for a minute. A worthy distraction. But COVID would kill everybody. When we get a oh, hey, look at there. I see a couch bot. A couch bot is what I see. So, without further ado, let's get this underway. Chris Courtney here, New Pragmatic. It is time for the feedback loop where I answer your questions and try to come up with something witty to say along the way, and often fail. Got a nice lineup today. Luigi's here, Eve's here, Rebecca's here, Katie's here. And because we've got so many projects moving in so many directions, I'm just going to jump right into it. Let's go ahead. Hey, Katie, first thing out of the gate. So this was, yesterday when I worked with Katie, if you watched yesterday's feedback loop, you probably noticed that we had some issues with regard to how elements were being how elements were being packaged, and what was important to realize when we're working through these things is that you need consistency so that when this data is presented to the form that you've created, it flows in and you don't get a lot of breaks. What we had yesterday was data misaligned, titles being used where artists were, but more importantly, we had discombobulation between the shapes. So now we've got consistency between the shapes. We come down here, you can see that there is consistency here. I do, and I'm not going to kick this back for this, Katie, but I do think that the year is pretty optional at this point. So I mean, it's not really all that important to the grand scheme of things. But this would also be kind of a weird thing for data to drop, going vertically. I don't necessarily think that's going to be a great presentation. But regardless, that's very secondary. If you dropped it off, nobody would miss it. If you kept it, I guess it's fine. But what is important here is you've given yourself the flexibility for elements to come in. One thing I'll mention though is that while this one, oh wow, my mouse died. I had no idea. That's going to be interesting. While this data has a number of songs and the length of the album, this one does not. And again, this comes back to you have to account for that space. And I think you might have just assumed, oh well, this is 2 lines and that's 2 lines, and that's going to work. Well, if we design this with data in this spot, and there was data attached, well, it's going to try to slide in underneath, and that's going to again bump the design down and break what you had previously. So this is just something to we continue talking about this, paying close attention to what we're calling in. And if I look at this, that's Roboto, and that's Roboto too. What's the difference? No, it's the same size. Okay. As we work through this, we want to make sure that we're not missing key parts of the project, because when if you're coding this, you'll discover it pretty fast, because you're like, oh crap, I forgot the design has this field here that I need to do something with. But if you're not coding it, it's even worse, because you're handing it off to somebody and they're going to look at it and go, what are you thinking? What are you thinking? Like, we need this to be consistent throughout, and now you've got these two. What do I do with the difference here? Okay? I would rather you not make that mistake when you're working with people on your team. When you're working by yourself, it's like it's lost time. When you're working with the team, it's a rookie move. Okay? So keep these things consistent, and we'll move on to the next. I wish this was working. That would be really nice. I'm going to turn it back on. I can use my trackpad. I can do that, but I really like to have my mouse to design with. All right, so let's come over here to color accessibility. So color accessibility, the good news here is that you're getting an opportunity to see with other people's eyes. This is actually one of my favorite exercises, because you're given the chance to really understand what it's like to suffer from or to have one of these color vision deficiencies. So obviously here, the cheese is supposed to be yellow, so this yellow button and this pink must mean that there is a lack of yellow. Here, this is really interesting. The fact that it goes from this vibrant blue, this teal, to like a purple, like that's also the removal of, let's see, well, yellow and blue make green, so if I'm over here on a purple, I must be losing some yellow here as well. And then this, it's kind of interesting, because you see the yellow turn into like everything just gets dingier. And down here, the final one, this almost feels like we're going into black and white. And clearly, while I couldn't necessarily tell that this was like some magenta being removed from the mix, here when you see the pink go to gray, and again, this is the standard vision here, this is the deficient vision. When the pink goes to gray, that basically is like the red is being pulled out of the mix. So good job here. The main thing, more so than just being able to, I don't expect you to be able to go, oh, well, that's clearly tritanopia. That's not what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is acknowledgement that there are vision deficiency issues that exist, and when people sit down to utilize a website, you could be designing in accessibility issues if you're not aware that there are color deficiencies. So you can't lean on color alone to indicate action or indicate meaning. It's always not. It's good to layer in other aspects. So that's what part 2 of the exercise is all about. Part 2 is straight up just, can we make these things typographically accessible? These are both websites. I did not, I replicated them just so you would have the type to work with. But when you look at this, it should be pretty clear that like that white type on that light blue background is a bad idea. Obviously, you recognize that as well. So good job there. Same thing down here for incredible. This is something that we do a lot as designers. We mess around with this. We want to make everything elegant and oh, it's got to be this light gray because I want a hint of typography here. Well, no, I want it to be legible. I want to be able to read this. And I will say that I didn't mind it being bold. I thought that being bold on the head gave you that contrast. And keep in mind, we're now layering in concepts together. It's one thing to be able to read it. That's great. Okay, good. Once we get to once we get to the point where we know they can read it, then we want to focus on contrast. Here, it was really focused on, oh, I'm gonna make this headline stand out, and I'm gonna create contrast by adding this gray. Well, you've gotten rid of the gray. You've actually made the type bigger, which is all nice, but you also made this regular, and I don't understand why that would step back at this point. It seems like you would want to maintain the bold to maintain the contrast. So keep those typographical rules in mind where we're going for contrast. Okay? Contrast matters because that tells us what's important, but also while also managing, okay, I'm going to really focus on how I can make this legible so that people can actually read it. And you're hitting those accessibility key points there. All right, so exercise 3. Exercise 3 is always interesting to see what we come up with. So exercise 3, we're changing the design to make it more easier for people to read. And the addition of the red back here is actually causing a problem because in adding the red, we lost the back button. So we lost the back button, and when we get into color blindness, red goes down to like a dark gray. So if it's a dark gray, that means that this black here it's going to be like it's just kind of together along with the status bar up here at the top. So by adding the red to the top, we've actually inserted a huge problem. When actually what this was looking for is it was looking for you to come down here and adjust potato burrito meal to have a more a clearer indication that it was not available. Now, I don't know if it's sold out. I don't know if it's not available. Available is a really long word. But I do know that just striking it out the way that you have is fine. You could have left it grayed. Like, the gray alone isn't bad. All right? The gray alone is not bad. It's that the gray alone isn't good enough to make this stand out as unavailable. The strike through, good. I would keep the gray. The sold out thing, that's not bad either, okay? But I would keep the gray. It's about adding elements to it, not saying that it should be something else. It in many ways it was along the right path, but you steered it off of that, and while also adding the things that you would have needed, okay? So when we come down here to pizza tracker, now you've added, so you've done a couple things here. You've added a color to the background, and that's fine. There's no harm, no foul there. This is different than the adding of red to the background and losing the back button. But in what's really good here is that you recognize that, hey, that type's pretty small. I've got color indicating progress, but I haven't necessarily, if I for whatever reason, if I have a color deficiency that doesn't allow me to see the green, I really have no idea where this is. And by adding the check marks, that's really the thing that pushes this forward. Is it a perfect design? Well, there isn't a perfect design here, so I'm not so concerned about that. I'm mostly concerned with, can we improve the designs without incurring an error? Here, this adds a lot more than is really necessary to improve it, but you've got the checkmark part, and that's fine. Over here, adding the red is a real deficiency. It really like it moves in the wrong direction, but the strikeout of the meal is in line with what the exercise is trying to do. So kind of a mixed bag here, but I think overall you're getting it. Just try to avoid self-inflicted wounds, okay? And I think you'll be good moving forward. All right, so we've got Rebecca's up next. Rebecca, you had a question that was related to your resume, and I think this is really important because resumes, we're always fighting for space, okay? And because we're always fighting for space, we're always looking around for what can I remove, what can I remove. I think there's three things here that you can remove. You specifically were asking about the contact fields. Well, people need your phone number, WhatsApp on your resume. People need your portfolio, okay? Because your portfolio is going to have links to everything. Your Instagram, your Medium, your LinkedIn, your whatever. And then they're going to want your email as well, okay? Because how else am I supposed to find you? Now, provided that you have your portfolio, there's a chance that they're going to have your email because your email is going to be on your portfolio. Your LinkedIn is going to be on your portfolio. Your Medium is going to be on your portfolio. But if I want to just shoot you a quick email and I've got your resume in front of me, I should be able to do it from there. Your LinkedIn and Medium are the things here that are very secondary. You don't need them, okay? So I would consider ditching them from your resume. And frankly, I would like for this right rail not to go all the way down, not to feel like it was forcefully trying to neatly align with the bottom of the other sections. So I would remove them and just let the space float at the bottom, okay? And I think if you can do that, you're good to go. Yeah, it looks like that's a cover letter in progress. So I want to come over real quick and make sure that I'm answering all your questions, though. Oh yeah. You had the Foundry thing, founders, founder residence, and this is my only issue here. Like you're talking to Founders Factory. It's in the UK. It's in residence. I don't necessarily know if they are considering remote. If you've had a conversation that and it says that they are considering remote, like I'm just going to search remote. It's not remote is not in the posting. So that's that doesn't mean that it won't be possible, but I mean it tells me right away that it's unlikely. And if it's unlikely, I don't necessarily know if I want to spend a lot of time chasing my tail on this one. So that's kind of where I'm going to leave that. I know that there's a lot of getting 250K funding for an incubator. That's always attractive. Being the new CEO of a newly created business, I like it too. But if you can't do that from where you're at, I don't necessarily know if it's something that I would chase down. So let's make sure that. Yeah. Okay. All right. And I'd love some help with the cover letter. Okay. So, you've got this job. So they're looking for an experienced copywriter, UI writer to work as a freelancer, possibly becoming in-house. Five entire days throughout 2 weeks. Work volume is 5 to 10 hours a week at the beginning. At least 2 years experience. Software UX writing, marketing experience is not necessary. That's interesting. Candidate should send a CV. Also be a nice letter on what he or she thinks about copywriter work. English in mother tongue letter, no need to know Hebrew. Okay, so when I look at that, and I look at, if I could come back over and find Figma. Hey, there I am. That's the job tracker thing. We're going to take a look at that here in a second. So when I come back over, you've got this. This is basically just a placeholder. They're looking for a couple of things that I find to be interesting, and I'm going to come back over specifically to the post. They're looking for you to come in to do copywriter work. And it says marketing isn't necessary, but it is software and UI writing. This seems to me like something where your work on various freelance projects that you've been doing can come into play, because and how you decide to spin it is really your call. But when you work on different projects, you have to find a way to explain to people why you would do that versus working at one place all the time. And this is kind of the difference between working at a company and working for an agency. All right, when you work for a company, you're working on things that are related to that company. When you work for an agency, you're working for the same company all the time, but you're kind of shipped out to work on different things. You're basically acting as a consultant. So I would explain that you enjoy working with different people. I would explain that you enjoy the challenge of really getting to know new products and new processes, and writing about those. I would talk about your Silicandy experience, kind of running your own thing, but you were doing basically, you had all the hats, and how you discovered that it was the UI and UX work that you were really attracted to, so that's why you shifted over that direction. And then, I would read more about this holdings company, and maybe talk about, it looks like you work with some exciting clients, because maybe they've got a list of like places where they've done some work. Maybe it's maybe they've made some blog post on their site. I really liked your blog post about blah. Pump them up a little bit, make them feel good about themselves, and then tell them about you and your experience, and why you like doing this. So that's kind of how I would structure that. I would be interested in seeing what you come up with as you move into the days ahead. So Eve is here. She's got a number of items here for us, and this dawned on me. I could probably plug in my mouse. And by the way, is this not the worst design? Where like you plug it into the bottom? I can't use it like this. I can't do anything with that. That's terrible. Apple products. Best design in the world. All right, so you've got your menu selection page ready. Next button has been added. That's something we talked about yesterday. The cart page is in progress. So what we're getting to see now is Eve is giving us a live look into her project in motion. And if we take a peek right here, let's see here. Oh, it's got to be right here. So one thing that I pointed out to Eve yesterday was this was moving ahead without any sort of confirmation. So you're on the welcome breadcrumb, and you're moving over here to plan. I'm gonna kill that. And you're moving over here to plan. If you choose a meal, and then you choose step 2, select a number of meals, you automatically would move on to the next thing. And I thought adding a next button here would be helpful, because maybe people want to click around and think about what they want, and it might tick them off if you like select and immediately jump to the next screen. So that I think is a good addition. So okay, so you got some options. You're basically working out your prototype here. Let's see. I don't know what happened to your modal. Oh, your modal's still down here. Okay. So on your modal, let's see. Yeah, as I was saying yesterday, just be careful not to add too much in here. It doesn't look like there's any like select this and then you get another modal sort of situation. So I'm not as worried about this. Like there's little interactions in here, but they're minor. So keep on keeping on there. I want to take a peek. No hassles. This is like I made a note about this. Somebody had a really good example, and it was about the footer. Even when you're on these pages where there is no logical need for a quote footer, you probably need your like a link to your terms of service, or you're having that down there gives you the ability to not have this. So I do think that like a very simple like here's a link to the rest of the stuff is helpful. So here, please, okay, this is interesting because this is where we begin getting into the concept of I'm going to have to scroll to the bottom to continue this. We have this layout, and it's fine. My question is this like you have 0 of 3 mills selected. So if I select 3, what happens then? Like I'm zoomed in on the page, right? Let's just say it's like this, and I select my 3, and I see 0 of 3. Like how do I move forward? Well, how you move forward is you got to scroll all the way to the bottom, and then you hit next. I don't necessarily think that the next should live only at the bottom. In my opinion, this is something where I would love to see the ability to have a next up here somehow, but I don't see that possibility in your current design. So we're trying to solve for the fact that when you ask people to scroll to the bottom, a lot of people aren't, and I realize that like it's not really that big on the screen, or at least I don't think it is. I want to kind of go in here and look at a couple things. So it's 270. How big is this page? So it's 1440. Okay, so that is like basically the width. So there's a scale issue that might be coming into play. Like as I'm going through the menu. So maybe there is room here, and we just need to kind of figure out how. Because you need the ability to like say, oh, here I'm at the top, I can go ahead and go. Or this is also a lot of times where somebody will use a modal. There's a drop down from the top. Just to make this less of a like I have to scroll to the bottom every time to move forward. Okay. Let's keep looking. It's a design challenge. I think Amazon does a really good job of handling that. It's the same concept that's back here. Like back here, you've got this proceed to checkout, and it's at the top, not at the bottom. Okay. So in one of these areas it's at the bottom, and the other area it's at the top. Okay, so I think you're looking for consistency. This is interesting in that you've got the blockiness of the outline, so select it, deselect it, but then you insert you've got this like bold bar all the way around. And I think that that's interesting. It might be the first time that I've seen that work its way in. Like here, you got rid of the line work around. Like you're using yellow as the block, but the line work is gone. I'm trying to see if we do nothing really there. Nothing really here. So now I want to kind of go in and look at your assets. Let's look for toggles. I don't think it's buttons, but specific use components. Yeah, it's kind of here. It's like you have the outline in yellow, and then it goes to yellow. I just don't know if I don't know if this solution, the way you have it right now with the red box, is in line with what you've been doing. So I would reconsider that. Also the green and the yellow aren't fantastic. It's like there's not quite enough difference between the two. Maybe this is, and I know that you've got the light yellow over here, like this pastel. I'm not sold on that yet. And what I'm looking at here, Eve, is consistency in the design based on what you've created to date. You know, you've kind of it's like as more elements are created, the guardrails on the design come in, and at some point, the basic usage of color and type dictate to us what the design for the new elements are going to be. Like it's just like until we completely break free of that, you're gonna design and move forward in a pretty specific way. And I realize I think this is the first attempt at designing this page. So I would really kind of take a step back and think about, okay, what happens when I use the lighter yellow? What happens if I get rid of the line? And I think once you do that, once you have those options available, I think that's you'll have a pretty good idea of what the logical move is, what you need to do to move forward. So I think there's still some work there. There's some consideration here for how to handle the next button as you move through it. Can you have it in two spots? This is moving along nice, but maybe a minor addition of a footer. Yeah, because you definitely don't need this footer. You just need something less significant. And yeah, I think this is I really think this is coming together. So good job, Eve. I like it. Let's take a look at Luigi. And I keep trying to I literally reach for the mouse and it's not there. So Luigi. Okay, so there's a lot here, and I wouldn't. Here's one thing I wouldn't do. I wouldn't use Figma as my content. I do think that like just using Google Docs, so that you've got a good text editor available to you, is ideal. So I appreciate you doing the heuristics evaluation on Xiao Gloria. It's a project Luigi is working on, and I appreciate it being in here, but you're gonna find that the formatting in Figma is just not very good. Now formatting for like, hey, I want to do this research one-sheeter, I think is fine. I also think that you could just do this also, and like if we go over to, I just want to go to Docs. Whoa, hey. And that's why I don't use my trackpad. on my, yeah, there we go. That is, yeah, that's not great. Let's hop in here. So, like, you've got this like resume set up here, which is a 2-column Google Doc. You could totally just use that for and type directly. Now, obviously, there's some styling here that's kind of hot garbage, but the whole concept of, can I do a 2-column design in Google? Yeah, you can. And see, it's got a nice break. It's pre-built for you. But just something to think about as you move forward. Do you really have to use Figma to do something like this? No, you don't have to. Do I like it? Yeah, I like it because I like to. I've shown you folks in the presenting research video. Where's my version of it is the question. Yeah, no, that's Tegel's. That's Tegel's. That's not mine. And I've also showed you, my resume, where I do that as well. Let's go over here into drafts. Maybe it's just because I've opened so many things since then. Yeah, I don't know where it's at. Do a better job of keeping track of your stuff, kids. Yeah, what did I do with that? That's really weird. Oh, presenting your work. It threw me off because in the video I show you kind of like a color coded, like step 1, step 2, step 3 for moving your work over to a presentation, which I think is important because these zones that you create, here, like title, my recommendation, the key observations, and then the supporting elements, those all can like become a presentation if you wanted it to. Like use a big photo and put some type over it, and then you talk over the top of it. Here, I like using Figma for these 2-column designs just because I have more control. It's just easier for me, and I can use Grammarly. I could just like copy out, put it in Grammarly, and bring it back if I need to. Where and I get to be fussy about things about baseline grid. Like it's perfect baseline grid, perfect all the way down. And I don't really get that control in Google Docs. So full side. Let's get back over here to this. So you've got competition, local cafes, Aussie cafes. So there looks like there's several Aussie style cafes must be in the area. So a lot of your research appears to be COVID related. Observations, improvements of the navigation header section are critical to improving usability. So basically what I'm seeing here is you're basically distilling down for them the heuristics, what you found by reviewing their site. Here you're reviewing the competition, and then here you're following usability conventions related to placement of menu navigation button states and alignment of text and images will have a major impact on the site with minimal aesthetic changes. Okay. The website should be separated into different pages to reduce cognitive load on the user, improve usability, and organize the site in a way that allows for a more cohesive feel. Follow-up interview is recommended with the restaurant owner to prioritize menu items based on business objectives. Ordering meals online, gift cards. Yeah, this is all what they need. Improved use of imagery and color along with the exploration of graphic elements could improve the overall aesthetic of the site and provide a sense of place. You're talking about that mosaic. They've got a mosaic that's being used and it's like fighting. But you're not talking about getting rid of it. You're talking about improved use. And I think that if you can show them like this is hard to read, they should get it. Additional research should be done or on best-in-class restaurant websites with aim of improving usability and creating more cohesive branding. So I think your recommendation is strong. this is another reason why I would like to have this documentation in a Google Doc. Is while you send them, like you send them the one sheeter, and like you just export those PDF and send it. Um, this information is like in a Google Doc, and I would ship it along, like a couple of links. Here you go. And when they look at this, first of all, most people aren't going to know what Figma is, and you have to kind of explain like, oh yeah, you can zoom in and zoom out, and it's like they don't want to zoom in. They want this in a Google Doc, right? And then they want to like scroll down and see all the work that you did, see all the stuff that you did. And I think this is very impressive in a Google Doc. I think it's people, when you're working with business owners, they're going to get lost in something like this unless you are dropping on them like, a prototype. Okay. Oh, and this is Karis. So I don't know why I'm over here. Or no, this is Luigi's. Never mind. This is not Karis. I apologize. Let's hop back over here because I feel like I'm not answering all of Luigi's questions. Oh, okay. So Luigi, you've got the great job search. Updated and added all previous applications. Highlighted applications in green are possible options or companies that would consider hiring me when hiring again. Okay, so let's take a look at what Luigi's got right there. Now, what we should notice right away, not a lot of green currently on the board, but this is all the places that Luigi has currently been actively talking to. All right. There's no way in hell you're going to hold all this information in your head. Okay. By the way, Luigi, go down here and change January jobs to reflect what this is, because I know this isn't January jobs. Because I put in January to kind of future proof it. I'll go in January and change it to 2022 jobs or something. But you have the ability now to be able to say, okay, here's what I've done, here's who I've talked to. The question I've always got down here is, company contacts. How many companies do I actually have a hard contact for, and do I have, like you have here with Jana, do I have their email? The other thing that I think is important is I would go through all of these and say, do I know anybody who works there? And just search LinkedIn. Like hop in to LinkedIn, say, hire talent. I'll just do it for us. I'm gonna go to LinkedIn, and I'm not looking for me to work at hire talent, but I am curious, do I know anybody? Do I have any connection in any way, shape, or form to hire talent? So let's say hire talent, right? Hire talent. Okay. Hire talent is, I don't know which one of these it might be, but I'll say this one. Okay. So I come in here and I search, and people. I'm going to come down to here to people, and do I have anybody connected to that place? And it turns out no, but I have shared connections that know people in a couple of different directions. So the CEO and senior account management, and somebody here. Looks like that might be Tedgel. So I'm going to look at these connections for Electra Hunter. Who do I know that's connected with her? Come on. It says it's selectable, but I don't know why it's not like doing anything. It's like completely just locked up. I don't want to connect with the person. I just want to see. Yeah, it's not doing anything. So LinkedIn locked up on me there. I apologize about that. Let's go back. Let's go back again. Ugh, so frustrating. People. Yeah, let's do it this way. Okay. Oh, okay. Well, now I can see shared connections. So Shane, Elvis, Bailey. All right. So I know some people that are connected, and it looks like I'm connected with some of these people in a lot of other different ways. Like I've got 128 connections to Shane. Looks like Shane just hits connect all the time. Bailey at 75. But I do recognize some of the names around that as well. So there's some interesting connections to Electra here that I could reach out to. And Ashish, I worked with Kyra here for 10 years, so maybe I could reach out and say, hey, do you know this person? And that would be a way in. There's also, this person seems to be really connected in media because everybody I seem to be connected to, um, that's connected to that person is in media. So anyway, my point being is if you're going through and you can find a connection to the company, there's conversations that you might have that would lead to you being able to inquire, because right now, like, you've got a couple of declines, but most of the application statuses are ghosts. They're like little Pac-Mans. Actually, they're not Pac-Man. Pac-Man would eat the ghost, but you get the idea. You don't have any status there. So I would the next stop for me would be to go through and, like, okay, what are my connections to SmartGift, Atrium, Redesign Health, Green Key Resources. I personally, I don't recognize those names. I didn't recognize Hire Talent, but I'm one step away from the CEO, or I'm one step away from a senior account executive, and putting those resources to work for you is how you're going to make significant progress forward. Um, while we're here, let's see, Luigi, did you have fresh market prototype? Okay, so we've taken a look at a lot of stuff. Let's go ahead and jump on in. Fresh market prototype. So looks like you've all right. So like the color scheme, the green and yellowish orange. It's lively. It's got nice contrast. Love the typography. Um, I can't claim to right away know what you're combining here. Mackinac Pro. Yeah, I don't know that one, and I don't even have it loaded in Sophia Pro. Okay, that's a nice combination. I like it a lot. It's got contrast. It's, the Mackinac Pro is it's almost got a Gaudi sort of feel to it. It's got a real meaty serif. It's not a slab. It's not a slab, but there's a lot of stroke modulation there. Um, Additionally, I think the Sophia Pro is just really clean. Um, yeah, overall, love it. Give that a ride on the ready and let's go. Um, Now, for you, Luigi, the next steps are going to be pretty important. Like, you've started creating some styles, and that's good. We need to continue on that route of getting these styles created. Like, it looks like you're probably pretty much done with color, but you've got a long way to go on text. So I would get that underway, and then once you've got that done, it's really time to move in and say, okay, let's get these headers knocked down, or these navs. Let's get the footers, and once you start laying that in, like, I'm not sure where the rest of your project is. Like, maybe I'm on the wrong screen. Hmm. Like, the projects around here. I just don't know where it went. Um, maybe you're in one of these situations where you're using a new. Oh yeah, it says wireframe V3. So maybe V2 is somewhere, and you've just decided to partition it. Oh, okay. Well, there's some stuff down here. Yeah. Okay. So this is your base wireframes. You're kind of building out from here. I would make sure that you've got the styles sorted out before I build out and begin duplicating anything. Make sure your styles are built out. Build out some base components. What I like to do is I like to create a page that has like a header and footer on it, everything linking back to the main the landing page as you have it right now, and then begin building from that. Because otherwise, I've got to like immediately start linking the prototype back to the home page, and that's a big pain in the butt. Okay. All right, folks. It seems like everybody is moving in a positive direction. So good job, Katie. Good job, Eve. Good job, Rebecca. Good job, Luigi. I know I've got a couple of calls coming up today, I believe, with Luigi and Eve. Kara might be in that mix too. Kara's on the mine. So I will have to go check that out. But otherwise, you folks have a great rest of your day, and it looks like it might be hiring season again. So be on the lookout for that job tracking spreadsheet video today. Fingers crossed. And I'll see all you folks later. Take care.